right, cool. I'm gonna get right to it in a little bit, but first I wanted to share this. This is an account on Pinterest that has like a called Character Design References, and it has like a ridiculous amount of pin boards of like just tons and tons of stuff. Like this was given to me by a storyboard artist pal of mine who goes to this anytime they need reference and stuff. This board is apparently extensively used by a lot of folks. There's even video design. I didn't see this. There's also video tutorials at the bottom, but this is just a gold mine of just tons of material for you to like reference and pull inspiration from and check out. And there's reference for just about anything you can think of here. Like there's stuff for hands and other areas of the body, facial features, dynamic poses, animation, all kinds of stuff. So I'll be linking this in the Drawing Corner chat and in the Twitch chat. Right here, both in Discord and in Twitch. And anyway, I'm going to get whoops, sorry, that's the wrong thing. I can hear someone's background audio.
Aganima, can you mute yourself?
Select the bell display. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Yeah, I need to set up the display manager. Let's see. Let's try this time. We're going to use because we want some of that like we maybe want this on screen this time. So I'm gonna do the 2 Magma Studios and 1 inspirational material window here, and then like we can put some stuff up here when it's on like the main screen. Like maybe I'll find something in here that's kind of related to what we're doing today. But anyway, let's see here. I'll switch this to class focus. All right, so you get the 2 Magma Studio windows up. All right, I got 2 windows this time, but there's more. I'm going to be able to flip between them. So here, let's see. Panel 1, panel 2. Also, that 100 figure challenge, that might be a bit much to take on right now. Let's hold off on that maybe till next week, because I just got over a flu shot. But I still need to get up to speed so I can review people's homework. So I might save reviewing homework till this Friday. But everyone who's been keeping up with the homework, good job on all of you. Keep it up. I mean, the whole point of me issuing the homework was to get people to just discipline themselves with regularly figure drawing. There we go. So we got 5 panels over in Magma right now. So take your pick. It's in the Magma Studios link section and my personal Discord. Let's see. Maybe I should at least stream. Yeah, I'll do the webcam thing again. Start virtual camera. There we go. All right, so now the people in Discord can see the stream in real time. And let's see, let's pick some inspirational material to have on screen. What should we pick? There's character anatomy there. Something more pose oriented, maybe. If there was like a way to slideshow this, you know? Well, there's some Disney stuff in here that might be cool to put on. I mean, there's good varieties of stuff no matter what you look at. Let's just pick up random here because it looks like the stuff's in there. The stuff in each of these is like pretty much a grab bag. So 1, 2, 3 character outfits, character design. These are kids. Character outfit. Character pose. Couples and kissing apparently. Design. Yeah, this one's a pretty good one. Maybe we can zoom in a bit. I'll just randomly scroll up and down this and stuff, and you can just have it on screen. Give me 1 sec. I gotta go grab an antacid real quick. Yeah. Sorry, I'll go. Sorry. Yeah, it's fine. No lag. All right. Anyway, so what are we doing today? Sorry about that long ass delay. The people who watch this stream later in the recording are going to be a little confused. So what we're doing today is what you see on screen here. We are. Oh, hang on 1 sec. Let me. All right. So, what we're doing today is these guys right here. So what we're doing is we're using a form of mannequinization today for our figures. These mannequins are a mannequin method that I've kind of developed myself that is actually adapted from a few other sources. But these mannequins basically they function by kind of they function on a principle of like these kind of like pseudo bone shapes, like kind of like this, that interlock with each other, or that loosely interlock or float off of each other and stuff. Like that could be like an arm or a knee or something right here. Like almost every part of the body you can use this on. Like here's like a torso, for example. Remember like those Ethan Becker torsos we were doing earlier in this week? You can use that principle here. These guys are just a little bit more pliable than how Ethan drew them. But it's the same principle. And when you're drawing this stuff, you want to think of them as solid shapes. So I want to give everyone a chance. Try drawing some of these shapes freehand. Like you can try maybe making like random arms and stuff. Like I want people to kind of play with making these sort of bulbous shapes as if they're sculpting them. Treat these like wads of clay. Like imagine you got like a piece of rolled up, like you've rolled up a piece of Play-Doh and or like clay and you squished it in the middle a little bit. Imagine you're like making a figure out of like clay logs like this. Like see those big like stumpy legs, out of proportion legs, but you can see like these kind of feel like pieces of clay logs and stuff. And the purpose of this, why we're using this guy, is because when we're figure drawing and we're making cool poses and stuff, we don't want to get caught up in agonizing about anatomy. What we do want is we want a sense of presence that the figure occupies 3D space, and that the figure has like something to say with its body, and there's a sense of weight to it, and there's a sense of volume and moving through 3D space and stuff. And also we want to give ourselves enough room so that like we want like simple shapes that we can kind of like see the anatomy on a little bit. Like you can kind of see already like where like some of these would be more elaborated on to insert more anatomy in stuff. Like I do like this for like the buttocks here, and then start breaking things down further and like add more muscle to the leg and stuff like that, and add more calf muscle and so on. These guys are modular, and they're simple. The cool thing is that you don't get lost. Like if you're like getting caught up, like where do I go next? What do I do next? Oh, well, I just do this. Just add another bone. Anytime you get lost, just add another bone. Just add bones. And also the other thing about these guys is, well, when you first start using them, your figures are going to be really off in proportion. But these guys, I want you to think of them both as like a clay puppet, and also as if you're like, as if you've ever done like, if you ever worked in like with like 3D animation character rigs, these guys are kind of like a hand-drawn version of working with like a Maya rig or a Blender character rig or something. As in, like you can easily like repose the limbs however you want at any time, and you don't have to agonize about, oh, I drew this limb, I drew this like perfect limb this perfect way, and now I got to repose it. Oh no, doesn't matter, because all you're doing is you're drawing these little logs, these little easy clay logs that you can do just endlessly over and over again from any angle. And guess what? Foreshortening is super easy with these guys too. Look at that. Foreshortening, one of the hardest things for an artist to do, is like super easy with something like this. Look at that. Foreshorten the forearm right there. And here it is unforeshortened. Turned away. See, because you're no longer paying attention to the anatomical nuances of the damn thing, or even like trying to make like you're not even trying to make like a perfect measured cylinder and stuff. Blah 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 blah. That's too complicated and too exact. You need something pliable that has like kind of organic mass to it, that's fun to draw and has kind of a rhythm to it. And that's what this is for. Other things you can do is you can do stuff like you can add a kneecap. I like to do that for like the elbow joint and stuff too. These are modular, you can add stuff to them. If you want more anatomical detail in a certain area, you can add that. I'm a fan of like the kneecaps, the ankle joints and stuff. I mean, like if you notice like these bones, that's not really how the bicep works, but you can easily just like, add in like an indication of the bicep, for example. I mean, it's pretty easy to start sculpting the anatomy into these once you have the pose down. Like you have it occupying 3D space. Now it's workable. That's the important part. And again, because these are easily modular and posable, you can change the position of the limbs however you want. You've created a 3D Maya model on the page for you to pose around now, basically. If you don't like where the limb is, you can just change it. Easy peasy. You don't have to think about it. I mean, like, you don't have to think about, oh, how am I drawing the forearm right? Nope, you're just drawing this, you're drawing this shape over and over again, from different angles and stuff. It's a simple system. And then guess what? Like, if you do want to start like bringing anatomy into it, I mean, like you have the mass right here, so you can kind of like see how it works. This makes it a little bit easier for you. Let's get some anatomy reference to see how muscle groups work, and then you start adding muscles on top of it, carving into it, and so on. So on and so forth. If the pose isn't pushed enough, you can always just, I mean, like you did like a little modular puppet man, you can just change the angle of stuff. You can also use lines of action in these too. Like You're gonna see me draw these guys in piecemeal an awful lot tonight, but you can start with a line of action, and then have your pieces go to it. But because these guys are kind of modular puppets and stuff, you don't necessarily have to start with a line of action. You can kind of discover the line of action, and then you can always like modify the limbs to suit them a little better if you don't get it quite right the first time. Also, because these are kind of like 3D puppets, I normally discourage people from trying to do this, but these guys are really like 3D puppets, so you're free to use like lasso tools and other things and stuff to bend and stretch and change position of limbs. This will get more fun for like people who have done this will get more fun for people who have like worked with 3D models before, or for people who have worked with 2D animation rigs, like, well, me, for example, like in Harmony and stuff for Flash. This is like a hand-drawn modular version of like a 2D or 3D animation rig in a weird way. So what we're doing tonight is, well, hang on. I put this on 2s. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to be doing a mix of invention and drawing from the on-screen reference. Now, as you're doing these things, like, I want you to get comfortable with how they work. Like, I would even encourage people to kind of play with maybe filling up their page with a lot of the interlocking shapes, trying to do like invented arms for a little while. Stuff kind of like this. Oh, another thing about this system. This is the same way that you draw hands, same way that you draw knuckles and fingers, by the way. So if you're drawing this way, and by the time you finally get down to the hands and the fingers and stuff, you'll be in pretty good shape to handle hands and knuckles and fingers and stuff. I'll show you what I mean a little bit. Actually, here, I'll show you what I mean on one of the previous drawings I did. Let's see, these are my warm-ups, so let's see. This. There. Let's see if I can find a really elaborate example. I know I did at least one. The hands. There we go. Yeah, right here. These are like this is like really, really rough, but this is like Bern Hogarth ball and socket hands. And I did it here too a little bit. This is more of the warm-ups that I did. Yeah, if you've seen Bern Hogarth's book on drawing hands, on dynamic hands, you'll recognize like some of the ball and socket joint stuff that I'm using on these bodies is not too far off from some of the ball and socket stuff in Bern Hogarth's hands book. Which is basically like this kind of stuff right here. Remember, this stuff is modular, so you can always just like add more stuff to it. Like, I've done that hand here, so now, oh, that just gives me enough cue off to like build one of these shapes off of here. This thing is modular. If you have no idea what to do next, you can just always just add another bone. Stuff. And it's fun to play with. It's like playing with clay when you get used to it. And you start getting a sense of weight with it the more you start using it. Because it's easy to kind of see how like these dumpy these dumpy wads of clay stack on each other, and you kind of can feel the weight of like this sort of clay-like substance that you're drawing on your page. Like we've all kind of handled clay, so we know it has like some good weight to it. So that becomes a little helpful way to start reading weight into things, weight and balance. Now, one of the things that's going to happen with a lot of folks, and it's happened with me, it's happening with me too, and I'm starting to fight it, is there's going to be proportional issues and stuff that are going to come up initially when you start using this, but it's really easy to fix those. As a rule of thumb, this should be equidistant to this. So these feet are a little stumpy and short. These legs should be roughly about, the thigh should be roughly about the length of like this, like to the neck to the crotch or so. That, yeah. And as a rule of thumb, these are going to generally be around like 1, 2, 3. Roughly about 8 to 7.5 heads high or so. And it's okay if the proportions are a bit off, but you have enough like modular playroom to kind of play with what feels right for the proportions too. So I want to encourage people to be observant about the proportions if things look off. Try to use it as an opportunity to fix it. This pliable method right here, you don't want to be like, you don't want to be precious about these wads you're using, these smooths that you're plying into place. Like these things are disposable. They're not your perfect, precious little pieces of anatomy that you've drawn. These are functional wads that should have a good oomph to them, and you don't worry about making them precious because you're going to be drawing like a trillion of these. So now that I've kind of given you guys some good headway on how to use this guy, I want you to keep warming up on trying it out. Feel free to try the time poses that are on screen. We're going to keep at this for like about another 10 minutes or so. Then we'll take a short break and then we'll start a time pose set. But I want people to kind of get warmed up on making these little interlocking shapes like this out of these wadded masses. Remember, these things are kind of like bones. They like hinge on each other and stuff. I'll talk more in detail about how I use them as we go through this, but essentially you're making figures out of wads. Yeah, they do look a little bit like Broca's beans. And in fact, you can use the bean principle a little bit on the torso. Yeah, I called these things the mega bone mannequin because these things kind of feel like bones. They feel like clay wadded bones to me. They work a bit like big giant bones, as if like you're making a human figure out of like cartoon caveman bones or something. But this is a tool to kind of simplify and unify like how you draw, basically. And it's an approach that I've found that's working well for me. This might work well. This approach might work well for some of you. It might not. The way I see it, this is a stepping stone to other methods that I'm going to be eventually using to draw as I get better and as I start absorbing stuff more. But for now, like something like this is a good stepping stone because it has a lot of things built into it that like bring out parts of my visual learning while I'm drawing. That's the thing. Like depending on what level you're at, or depending on how you process things, or where you are currently in your makeup as an artist, how you approach, like you can't just like imitate the way somebody else draws on the surface level and then expect to get the same kind of insight and the results that they get. You kind of need to figure out what approach works for you, and oftentimes you're going to want to embed ways to like basically like train yourself on the fly, or get you in good drawing shape on the fly with the way that you approach drawing. So that means like using an approach to drawing like this, which gets you starting to think in terms of volume and spatial recognition and stuff, and 3D form and so on. And it starts to like this preps you for doing anatomy later. This preps you for doing other things, or drawing other things as well. By that same token, that our friend the tornado, this guy right here, which we've used to draw on figures before, that guy is also a tool that is used in a similar way. But we're basically making wadded clay action figures today. Oh yeah, actually, it's a good thing that that a JoJo character is here, because the way that Araki draws JoJo poses is very similar to how I'm having you guys approach this, especially in his older works. But you can kind of see there's this sort of like modular three-dimensionality to how he draws things, and you can see it reflected in this Kira statue here. But let's see here, Araki art. We can find some recent stuff, but he's a very kind of mannequinized approach to how he draws the figure, especially in his more recent work. You can even kind of see it there. And of course, like the way he draws is kind of a mix of like pop art and like manga stuff with a lot of observation of old masters' work and other things, like and fashion illustration, of course. Uh, wow. But yeah, Araki's characters, especially if you get a full page spread of his stuff in a full size print or something, you can really see like he really does think of his figures as being like 3D wads of clay, and they almost kind of feel like posed action figures at times. Not to knock that, by the way. But at the end of the day, we need a posable puppet that's occupying 3D space that we can wrap our heads around. Oh, there's another artist that is also in this vein too. Trad Moore. And we've looked at him before. I actually have a bunch of his work in a pure rough file and stuff, but his more recent work especially has gotten like really super the tool reference there, of course. It's gotten really super psychedelic and stuff, but like you can see like he has a very volumetric approach to how he does figures and stuff. It's gotten way more kind of psychedelic and stylized lately, his approach. But it's not sloppy. I mean, he has his earlier style, like on the Ghost Rider comics, is like much more angular kind of, but really still very forceful. And his Luther Strode stuff is kind of in that vein too. But he's kind of fused it with like Peter Max and Yellow Submarine kind of stuff more recently. So it has this kind of like blobby sort of psychedelic look to it. Oh, that's a really angularized psychedelic one. But yeah, like he's someone to look at that has a really strong sense of 3D shape and form, and he's been able to play with it to turn the figures. Wow, that's really cool. He's been able to play with it to really kind of push his figures into very interesting psychedelic directions. And his stuff for Silver Surfer is pretty. Here's a really good example here. You can see like when you start thinking of like the figure pieces of the figure as wada bits of clay, it just becomes a matter of kind of sculpting more detail into them, really. So I want people to start like playing with these, like find and feel free to modify them however you want and like add stuff to them. Maybe like develop a version of these that's different from mine that works for you, that either works for you or add some clever things to them that I didn't think of, you know? I would say that Bern Hogarth is the Bern Hogarth and George Bridgman are the two main people to look at in relation to the way that we're approaching these drawings tonight, by the way. Another thing about these is these are confidence building tools. Confidence building tools also correlate to the whole thing of like, you need something modular that is going to train up your drawing abilities on the fly as you're going through a drawing. These, because of how they're so simple, it just becomes about like describing in something with the shape, and then it becomes really easy to just, oh, I don't really have to think about the detail and stuff. I just think about like the cool kind of overall feel and flow of the shape linking together. And now I have this really confident arm here that's like saying a statement here, and I can add like a body leaning into it here, you know. And the body's composed of the same stuff, same modular joints as the rest of it is. I don't have to think about crazy amounts of detail. I can even maybe use a shape like that a little bit for the head if I want, like that. Like, see, I like pinched it there for the jaw. I do that for the neck too. And I can foreshorten this, and because we're looking at it from above. It's going to be shorter because it's foreshortened. Oh, that looks 3D now. See, you know, like you didn't have to like carefully plot out how it's how a 3D shape is going back in space. You just made one of these things shorter. You did think about it three-dimensionally as you were drawing it, but you didn't have to be meticulous about it and agonize over it. If you do something like that, here we go. We got a leg out here. Let's do a foreshortened leg here. Let's do a severely foreshortened leg here. Yeah. And again, you don't have to be precious with these. Look how easy it is to just reposition a limb like that. This is a method that I am trying to see if I can get working in animation. I might actually figure out through the process of animating that there are a little bit more convenient ways to get the same result with less lines or something. But you can kind of see like if you almost imagine like the body is like a 3D, as part of a 3D model or a 3D rig. Like these bicep and upper arm things are almost kind of free floating, but they're sort of ghosting in the motion of like an arm linked to the torso. Like Look here, like we're looking at the back of this character here, for example. This limb is up here like this. So his arm's raised up like that. This arm's down here. That arm is down against the body. That one's up there, and so it's kind of like floating off the body a little ways. It's a little exaggerated, but I mean that's kind of that's kind of mimicking like what happens when your arm raises up, where your clavicle comes up, your shoulder comes up. And of course, if it's looking funky, you can always just adjust it or something. But like these limbs, for example, this thing's floating at an angle off this waist. But you can always like, let's say we shifted this shape down over this way and pointed it towards us, and it'd start doing this. Something, wouldn't it? This is a way to build confidence and power and stuff, because like even when you start playing with these shapes, then you can kind of see like, oh, so I got like this kind of basic shape right here. Okay, I'm going to start maybe playing with adding some anatomy here. So add in like a bicep bulge here. Let's add more of an elbow joint. Let's add the tricep, stuff like that. Also, over the course of doing this, like other like more complex anatomy shapes will be easier to tackle. Like I can see in the future potentially, like for example, there's a deltoid right there that I put in, a kind of turtle shell shape to the deltoid. It's so totally fine if you see an opportunity to insert like a shape that kind of implies more anatomy in the figure. Like you can insert little bits of your anatomy knowledge into these guys, but keeping them simple lets you kind of mass in the shapes and test out the position and how the limb feels before you kind of commit to really like adding in the muscle and other stuff, you know? And they're really fun to draw. That's the other thing. That's why this is also a confidence building exercise, because you need tools that are fun to play with. You're not going to get fun drawings if you're not having fun using the tools. There's also a lot of power, if you notice, in these. Like, yeah, these are just like simple, crude sketches, but like you can kind of feel there's this sense of like force and weight to them. Like I do kind of feel like if this limb punched me, it would hurt pretty bad. Like if that limb balled up into a fist and hit me in the face, it would hurt pretty badly. These limbs are almost kind of like clubs and weapons. It sort of lends itself to like punchy, kicky superhero stuff, for sure. All right, we're going to take a little 5-minute break, but feel free to keep loosening up. After the 5-minute break, we are going to do a set of twos. I'm going to pause it on this guy here. But feel free to play with this. I mean, like I see some people, one person's actually drawing a little kind of a cartoon scene using this. If you want to, these guys are really easy to use. So if you want to create a scene or draw characters using this guy, feel free to. Like the whole point of these guys is to have a simple, like accessible way to approach the figure. Again, though, I would for the newcomers here, I would suggest like filling up the page with kind of these modular shapes if they can, these kinds of things. Kind of start wrapping your head around how these things sort of work, these sort of wads, these stretchy, bendy wads. probably just do a page of like invented limbs, for example. Okay, Alexa, set timer for 3 minutes.
Second timer, 3 minutes, starting now.
Alexa, how much time left on timer?
You have 2 timers. A 3-minute timer, with about 2 minutes and 50 seconds left along downstairs. A 1-hour timer, with about 19 minutes left.
I think the downstairs timer is not ours. I think that one's a kitchen timer someone's using. That reminds me, I was going to bring Google back up here. Google's back. Should be a music chime in a moment. Also, does anyone have any questions right now? Oh, careful! Try not to use the fill bucket on Magna Studio because often that will happen. Gus, those are looking pretty good actually for first time using this method. This method, you're supposed to use it a lot, something like this. This is a mannequin. This is basically a really, really simple, easy, accessible mannequin. Something like this, you're supposed to just get used to using, basically. Alexa, stop. So the newcomers here, please make sure when you're drawing your shapes, you try to mask them in pretty confidently. Like I need you guys to practice. First off, newcomers, do not draw using your wrist. Do not draw with your wrist. You will ruin your wrist. You will ruin your hand. You will ruin your drawing hand if you draw with your wrist. Do not draw with your wrist. Also, avoid drawing with your elbow, but especially don't draw with your wrist. But what you want to draw with, your shoulder. Draw with your shoulder. That means you're going to be holding your pencil pretty steady. You're going to be using a light touch. You're not going to be pressing it hard. You're not going to be pressing hard. I do not want you pressing hard. I want you using a light touch. And I want you to exercise your dexterity every time you're sitting down to draw. It's very important that you Do not be, I don't want you doing this. I don't want you doing this. Do not do like chicken scratchy, lacking in confidence lines. This is indecisive. When I want you sketching, it's okay to draw over stuff and so on, but I want you to be playful and have fun with it. Like, I want you to like put energy into what you're doing. And I want you to try to make confident strokes and make confident shapes. Start playing pliably with these. Like I would actually encourage people as a warm-up prerequisite to this mannequin, filling up a few pages of doing this, where you draw shapes like these without lifting up your pencil. It's kind of bulgy, random, improvised shapes. You can draw over them a few times, like that, but you don't lift up your pencil. This will start keying you into the way you want to be thinking when you're doing the bone shapes and stuff. Like, these are essentially the building blocks of what we're doing right now. So look at that. That looks like a foreshortened limb already, doesn't it? Or like this right here. Let's put a little. Just by doing that, this looks like it might be a limb of some kind. I can put like a little elbow joint there. This one looks like an exaggerated torso to me. I could put like a couple balls down there for like the waist. And then like, that looks like an arm already. So maybe like foreshortened arm here. And then forearm there. Looks like testicles, actually. But yeah. But like these were just random shapes. I didn't set out to make these into limbs, but it's like these are the building blocks of what we're using this evening. Like gesture is built into these puppies. These guys are individually like expressions of gesture and volume, basically. They don't feel like they have volume, but I mean, they don't look like they have volume at first glance, but you can always like do that, for example, to show how they bulge, how they stretch, how they twist. Like this is showing the dimensional space it occupies a little clearer. But you don't even necessarily need that. You can kind of like get a sense of what it's doing without adding too much to it. Sometimes you might add like little endpoints on it or something. Yeah. Let's do a set of two. What time is it? Yeah, this has been a really, really long warm-up period. Let's get into a set of time poses now. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. Get that starting now.
All right. Let's start with this guy. Oh. So I sort of lost my rhythm on doing observational drawing, but that's okay. Again, this method is like super modular, so I could just kind of wing it. Yeah, I got his torso wrong. His torso is actually going more like this. Let's maybe see if I can fix that. See, how would I fix that? Well, treating his body like a 3D model that I'm reposing. Gonna make the correction over here. And I may have enough visual memory to do this. Oops. There we go. Just a little torso twist. Foreshorten limb there. There. I'm satisfied with that. Let's move on to the next guy. This guy is a very back-oriented pose. That about narrows down the description of that. So what are we going to do for this guy? Well, obviously, his body is just going to be one of our little bone limbs to start with. Then I'm going to make like some floating bone limbs. I'm going to maybe use a little bit of a line of action here to kind of get the limbs kind of doing something similar to what he's doing. A little bit of indication of the spine here. Volume to the neck. His head and the side plane of the head there. This is good fodder for like a back anatomy exercise, this photo, for sure. So below his pants line is like that little triangle wedge for the buttocks. Just down in there. Let's build off more of that bottom shape there. You see, like, I didn't really do too much with this. Like, even crudely, this method, if you're doing it somewhere in the ballpark, it still feels like it has like some kind of a presence to it. It's nice when you use a method where the method kind of carries the drawing. Oh, the other book that I would recommend in relation to this, I recommend like George Bridgman's stuff. I recommended Bern Hogarth's Dynamic Figures and other things, and his other books. And I also recommend Mike Matisse's books on force, because that stuff from the force books is like in the back of my mind as I'm doing these, for sure. I think there's some, I don't think I quite got this right. Let's maybe try seeing if this might help a bit. It helps a little. Again, treating the figure like it's a 3D model, where we can reposition limbs. gonna try maybe using some loose line gestures to kind of plot my line of action for the limbs before I do a big bony boys. So like clay, oftentimes clay is about wadding in, stumping to an area that you can then work with. And that's what this method is about. Sometimes you can improvise stuff and you can build off the clay to kind of build something. Other times you start with like a wireframe. Like, remember those simple modular puppets that we've been using, like this guy right here? You can use this as your base for this guy. Like that. And again, these things are like fun to draw. I'm going to strongly encourage people try drawing this or some approach like it on your own time. Just sort of get adept at it. Find something that works for you, obviously, because everyone's at different levels and stuff, and everyone has different makeup. But try to find some kind of a method of handling your figures that's simple and modular, that you don't really get lost on what you're supposed to do next. That's what this method is kind of for me. Like I know that like I don't really have to think about like crazy amounts of anatomy detail or anything like that. I can just go from one mass shape to the next and play, and I can play with the shapes. One thing I like about this method too is like even when something's incorrect, it still looks neat. Like I didn't quite get the foreshortening right on this, and like the legs kind of not as gestural as I would have liked, but it still feels fun. So I have some foreshortening going on in that limb here, the hand. That foreshortening going on in that limb back here too. In hindsight, maybe I should have done the gesture first, but it's okay. This thing's modular, so I can always modify and change. And if I went in too quickly with doing the shapes, just use it as an opportunity to play with it. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? I don't think we're too far into it.
3 seconds to go.
We're over halfway. Oh, that's good. So there's a lot of complicated musculature going on in those deltoids and the shoulders and the underarms there. You don't have to worry about any of that. You're drawing like this. You're just messing in the shapes. And then you can come in later and try to layer in and work out the muscles and stuff. Yeah, if you find Ethan's technique works better for you, then that's fine. This is a technique that I've used myself previously, so I'm like kind of used to it. And it's not too far off from Ethan's approach either. Mine's just a little more like a gummy bear than his is. But it's still kind of based on the same thing. I mean, you can do the same thing with the way I'm drawing the torso that you can with Ethan's. And it's still based in like that pinch that's happening in the middle and stuff. So I'm sure some of you who are trying this out can already kind of see how this would be used in animation. Like it just becomes about animating these kind of shapes moving through space. I'm starting to get tired on this one, so I kind of got really sloppy on it. Ugh. I'm gonna need to shake my arm out and get some water actually. I've been drawing a lot, by the way. uh, Let me see. There might be some nudes on here. There might be some nude photographs that I was using to reference in this file here. So let me turn those off camera. Oh yeah, there were, but I turned those off already. Anyway, these are some warm-ups from earlier today too. Very early today. Much more must. This is before I kind of settled on the way that we're going to be teaching tonight. So it's a lot more playing with kind of anatomical shapes and stuff. I better get some ice water. I'm gonna fill up a giant thing. I'm gonna fill up like a giant glass of ice water. Get back. Oh, we got a really good turnout tonight. 55 people watching. So who here is who here in the Twitch is new to what we do here? Maybe I should give a rundown of my background. Or it's just 55 regulars who already know. But yeah, feel free to speak up in the Twitch chat if you're new to this class. Or if you're new or if you're in the voice chat and you're new, if this is your first time here, for that matter. I think everyone here is a regular though. Okay, Google, stop. All right, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Starting now.
All right, so just a little give you a bit. Sorry, much mouth because I've got like a mouthful of ice water. All right. To give you a little background, my name is Spacedad. I'm a professional animator. I've worked in the TV industry for about 4 years. I've been doing online classes for the last year because back in 2019 or so, I got really sick, and I couldn't work for a while, or I couldn't even draw for a while. So for the last year, since I got better, like in early 2020, I've been trying to basically claw my way back to life, and also to become a better artist than even I was when I originally got sick. So I joined Ethan Becker's Discord. Ethan Becker's a YouTuber who's from the animation industry, and he's a really cool dude and really cool artist who I look up to a lot. Joined his Discord, and I found a lot of really cool, like-minded people there who are all gung-ho about studying and improving. And I started doing like time figure pose sessions with people there in order to like get more figure drawing and gesture drawing under our belts. And like getting over that hump of disciplining yourself to draw every day is really tough as an artist, especially when you're coming back to things after being sick as long as I was. And I wasn't very disciplined to begin with too. I kind of got burned badly when I was from my time when I was in the industry. So I started doing these doing these classes on Twitch. And somewhere around that time, actually a little bit after a little bit before I started doing the classes on Twitch, I was made into an official moderator on the server, and I do classes officially through the server and other places too. These classes are essentially like I say they're classes, but they're more like glorified group study sessions. Like, I'm not a master by any means. I'm not a very good artist, honestly. I'm trying to become a better artist. And because there's like really, really amazing stuff I want to do, but I don't really have quite the chops for it yet. So, but the best way to learn is to try to teach stuff to other people, because it kind of forces you to reevaluate yourself and to regurgitate the information to other people. So that's part of the reason why I started doing these. The other reason is that because this is on a regular schedule, I always have something to look forward to. I'm always going to be hitting the art gym no matter what. And I have the performance satisfaction. I can't just do this stuff emptily in a void. Like, I'm a little bit of a narcissist in that regard. I've got to get some approval from other people. The other thing is that over time, I've sort of gotten over my stage fright here. Because every time I put the work in, I put the effort in and make some kind of improvement that I feel a little bit more confident in, it creates a positive feedback response. And the times when I'm not putting enough practice in, that I do these sessions, I tend to be a little bit more anxious in how I draw and a little bit more reserved. But over time, I've kind of learned like how to pace myself on that, and it's pretty neat. Like, I've sort of loosened up a little bit more, where it's like, hey, it's okay. Hey, Spacedad had a little rough day. He's coming back from drawing a little less now, so he's gonna like do some more easing back into things, exercises and stuff, versus like stuff that gets more in depth on certain days. But yeah, anyway. So tonight we are, of course, playing with this kind of modular puppet that I developed. And this is a guy that works for me. And I'm hoping that you guys are able to pull something of value from this guy for yourselves. A simplified way of handling the figure where you don't have to overcomplicate what you think about when you're drawing it. So you can just concentrate on getting like, okay, Google, stop. So you can just concentrate on getting the figure posed out, getting them feeling like they're occupying 3D space a little bit. So then you can go back in and add the more of the details of the anatomy and other things like that into it. Like something like this, if not this specific puppet for you, would be something you'd want to shoot for. This guy works for me because I can kind of wrap my head around these shapes work and stuff, and I can sort of like see how they work three-dimensionally a little bit in my mind's eye. It might take a little some tries for you guys to get into this, but this is for me, it's a really fun method, and I would encourage you to try it out on your own. So we're gonna get into another set here. Another 20-minute set. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds, starting now.
So this will be another set of 2-minute poses. So sometimes you do draw out the line of action and stuff, but I mean, the way that these things work, you can kind of embed the gesture and the line of action directly into the limbs as you create them in some cases. I'm giving that a go right now. What's cool is because these are so open-ended, like you don't, yeah, like if you don't really like completely commit to something, so if something would be off, but like the angle of how something is, that can be easily adjusted and fixed. Or you can, or like in your next pass when you get more specific with what things are doing anatomically and geometrically, you can do that then. An example of that would be like how I handled the torso here. Like, it potentially this could be a disaster here with like how the torso is kind of twisting over there because I'm a little bit unclear about like what direction his torso is right there. But because this is like such a simple shape, it's pretty easy to sort of modify it and sort of sculpt and guess until you get something that feels a little bit better. And even if you don't, I mean, like, this feels pretty good. This guy right here. This guy feels pretty good to me. Like, if you have a method that can look good even when it's incorrect, that's good. Because that builds more confidence. And that also means that you're erring on the side of a figure looking dynamic. If something is going to be incorrect, at least it should look good dynamic. And it should look fun. And we definitely know about that from Hirohiko Araki, don't we? And for a lot of comic book artists in general, for that matter. Yeah, if you're going to fuck up, at least make it fun. Let me at least make it fun to look at. That's the importance of confidence. Like, confident errors are where you get stuff like punk music. Or trash rock or something. To be fair, to trash rock, that's not really errors per se. That's very much on purpose. Yeah, a universal method that you can use to draw anything is like what I'm trying to go for with something like this. Basically, like a universal method I can use to draw just about any figure. There's obviously like inherently any kind of system there are gonna be like some limitations you're probably gonna run into, and I can already see there's a few with this guy, but I'm gonna dwell on that for the moment. Uh, but I mean that's just part of as you learn and adapt. As you start figuring out what the limitations of the method are that you're using, you can modify the method. We use both the chats, just to answer that person who asked in Twitch chat. We use both Discord and Twitch chat. I'm drawing right now, or otherwise I would put it in the Discord myself. But if you want to join the Discord, it's _Discord in chat. You can stay up to date on my classes. I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. My Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes are at 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. But my Saturday class, my Saturday class I teach in the Ethan Becker server. It's my one class during the week that I teach on Ethan Becker's server instead of my private server. And that one's at 2:30 instead of 5:30. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30, and then Saturday, 2:30. My times are going to be subject to change because I'm going to be taking a storyboard class and an animation class next month. Storyboard class that I've enrolled in is going to be on, I think, Thursdays. So that shouldn't cut into class time, but the other one is a Sunday class. That's also not going to cut into class time. But again, I mean, like, I don't know what the homework load's going to be like, so we'll see. What we might get into though is like my class streams might turn into Spacedad does the homework assignment or something. I'll talk with one of the instructors, the animation instructor, about how much I can talk about their teaching methods or whatever on my streams. So it'd be really keen to do the homework assignments live on Twitch for some of these, and in a way that maybe that other people can pick up on. But we'll see. Might be good to just keep these as just like figure drawing exercises, and then just use them as time to kind of loosen up between working on the homework assignments or something. So aside from that, I'm planning on enrolling in a analytical figure drawing later this summer. Analytical figure drawing class later this summer to beef up my figure drawing abilities. Like the kind of animation I want to do, I need to achieve a much higher level of figure drawing than I'm currently capable of. But this method that I'm using right here today, this is a little stepping stone in the right direction, I would say. Also, feel free to. I don't think I have Linkspan. Do I have Linkspan in chat? I think I do. But you can feel free to. I don't have any rule against advertise. At least in this present time, I don't really have any rule against advertising. Just as long as people aren't jerks about it, you know. So if you want to post your socials or mention if you stream yourself or something like that, that's totally fine. Also, these classes are free, but if you want to support the streams, helps me cover overhead costs and get upgrades for the streams and stuff. It's a donation link down below to my Ko-fi page, which donates directly to my PayPal. And also, you can support the stream with bits and with cheers and with subs and stuff. I don't make very much from these streams. The primary reason that I'm doing these is like for my own artistic ability, self-improvement, and also to, you know, chill with other people. It's fun seeing how much other people have improved doing these classes along with me too. Also in my Discord, like one thing I'm going to be steering people towards is I'm not a professional teacher, but I would hope, like, for newcomer artists, I can be like somebody that can be your stepping stone to getting into real classes, basically. Like, I'm going to try to give people a little bit of a small taste of what they can expect in taking a real art class, just a little bit, you know. And in that regard, I have a list in my Discord of classes and schools I recommend. that you can budget for and enroll in. But anyone here who wants to take their art to the next level, start saving up around $900 to enroll at least one class in the near future. That will make. But before you enroll in a class, work on your work ethic. You're not going to be able to get very much out of enrolling in a art class unless you have like struggled and tried to improve on your own as best as you're able to on your own steam, asking your peers for help, looking around at like art tutorials you can find like Proco and other things like that, practicing stuff like in my class or on your own. Like if you need to really kind of sink in the time studying every day. And because you need to be hitting a plateau on a wall on your own steam as best as you're able to. Well, without injuring yourself. You want to pace yourself and stuff and not like burn yourself out. But you want to take yourself as far as you're able to, and you want to get yourself to a point where you can pace yourself that you're not going to quit. You're not going to get discouraged and stop. You want to reach a point where like, okay, I'm hitting a plateau. I'm not really seeing too much progress. I feel like I'm kind of hitting a wall here, but I'm going to keep at it. That's the point. That's the point when you need to enroll in a class as soon as you're able to, because like a good class with a good instructor who is worth your time and your money will basically like streamline pushing you over the hurdle that's in front of you. It's possible for you to overcome that on your own. In fact, there's a lot of people, especially in this day and age, who are almost entirely self-taught. Self-taught being a very, very loose definition, because they've been actually able to get a lot of like professional, almost like class to your quality, like feedback on their work from peers and stuff, and peers and pros that they've done for relationships without actually enrolling in a class themselves, or they have like study methods that are about as good as a class, or they participate in a group study or something like that. That's an equivalent. This is a really poopy figure here. I sort of went on autopilot for this one.
I'm gonna head for the night, Spacedad. Thank you again.
Yeah, no problem. Let's tuck that little one away and forget about it. Yeah, we're definitely going to use this guy more. Let's say. If I'll probably evolve what I do with him a little bit more, but this guy is really handy. At least for me in particular. And these classes are going to be horrendously selfish. They're going to be very animator oriented because I am an animator. And they're going to be kind of oriented around what I'm trying to learn. I'll be trying to help bring other people along too. And I do try to like keep things modular, so like newcomers have something to sink their teeth into at any given time here. But these classes are altruistically selfish. Like these classes are really about my own improvement mainly. But I want you to maybe kind of like riff on what I'm doing and figure out what works for you. I'd also encourage people, if you are actually taking an art class, by the way, feel free to use these sessions as basically a time post-session practice to practice what your art instructor wants you practicing right now, for example. And then this just becomes a timed pose session, basically. So I'm going to demonstrate for the next few poses the power of this method with being able to invent figures. So this is an invented figure right here. But I mean, like, it's remarkably easy to invent with this method. Most of the time you're going to be starting with just like the torso, like this thing right here. There we go. We're doing a lot of dynamic figures. Sometimes it can be kind of a hard change to draw a figure that's not really doing much. Like this one that I'm drawing right now. Because you can't really cheat a figure that's just standing like straight upright as much as like you can with like a dynamic figure and stuff. So you have less room to hide behind limbs going off into space and stuff. Fortunately, this method is really kind of it's easy to track the limbs, it's easy to mask them in and stuff, and it feels pretty good. Keep things really simple, modular. A couple other things that I like doing, like you can see I'm doing this kind of bone limb things. One thing I like doing is like sometimes you'll see me do like I'll handle the waist. Here's the waist, like right here. I often have like a couple of balls here for the leg sockets, and then I have like the leg joints they're kind of resting in the tops of the leg joints, sort of like that. I actually used that on, let me show you real quick. I used that on this guy that we looked at before. Let's see here, there it is. So this guy right here, this guy actually uses a little bit of this method, because I've used this method before, like, but this guy was actually animated with this method. You can see it especially in the limbs down here, and you can see the sphere sockets that I used for the legs there. That made it a little easier to track them three-dimensionally and stuff. And again, like this method that we're using to draw is all about like gesture and volume in 3D space. Fundamentally, animation is gesture drawing in third and fourth dimension, which means it's moving through space and it's moving through time. I would also argue fifth dimensional, because you can think about the multitude of possibilities of alternate timelines that an action would resolve itself in. And on that note, let's see here. Where's that head turn? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. This is not related to that, but I wanted to show this off again just to like remind people to think about things three-dimensionally. This I did with no reference. This was all out of my head. This head was all out of my head. But as you're doing these very easy to mass in volumes here, I want you to think three-dimensionally. Pretend these are wads of clay moving in 3D space, like turning and moving in 3D space, and you can like decide what direction they're turning in and stuff by adding additional attachments to them and stuff. Like, look at that. I just made a hand here by adding some more of those just for the fingers. And knowing the rules of how hands work I'm using these kind of rhythm lines right here to track the knuckles. Right there. Okay, Google, stop. Any storyboard class recommendations? Yeah. The one that I'm in. Andy Khan's, you're not going to be getting feedback in it, but it's worth enrolling in. It's going to be starting next month. Whoops. But here it is right there. I'm enrolled in this. There's still slots open for it. There's no homework review in this, and it's $350, but it's worth. There's also a bunch of other storyboard classes recommendations in my Discord too. CGMA and Brainstorm Academy and Concept Design Academy and a few other places that I list in there have really good storyboarding programs, storyboarding instructors. I just put this up. It's gonna be a how to animate music video, animated music video class. Seems really interesting. This will be a 2-week live course. Okay. Interesting. It looks like this one's going to be a little bit of a smaller affair. Like a special 2-week workshop. The one that I'm in is the storyboarding class that I'm in is a 6-week, and the animation class is going to be an 8-week. Any of the magma panels open? I can check. I can make some more. 1, 2, 3. So let's see. Shut up, cat. All right, I'm putting some more panels. I don't think I gave us a break timer, did I? Or, okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
It looks like you don't have any timers set at the moment.
Okay, Google, set timer for 3 minutes.
Starting now.
Things are the schedule on tonight's session is a little loosey goosey because we had a long demo session at the beginning, and also I'm coming back from being sick on COVID vaccine side effect. It's like the normal vaccine stuff. It's like the normal flu shot type kind of ordeal where your immune system basically does a. It's like they shot a drill instructor into your veins that makes your immune system go through a boot camp, combat boot camp, to train themselves to fight infection. So you still get run down because your immune system had to run uphill both ways 7 miles, in the rain or something. And they do 1,000 push-ups. Apparently, the next shot, the part 2 shot, is going to be even rougher than the first. Like, there's supposed to be like fever-like symptoms and stuff. The symptoms I got was just like mainly like just like grogginess and kind of just feeling really loosey-goosey. But I got plenty of sleep and rest, and so I'm feeling pretty good now. So it's a nice bounce back.
Which vaccine did you get?
The one that begins with an M. What's that?
Moderna?
Moderna, yeah. That's the 2-parter one.
I was under the impression that people in the US were all getting the Pfizer one.
Oh no, they're getting both. As you see, as you start becoming more familiar with this method and stuff, you can start getting a little bit more loose with it, like this. And it starts, your drawing will start to look a little bit more inherently figurative. Like your shorthand starts to have more anatomical information built into it. If you use this method as training wheels, which is the intention that I have of using this. Like, let me show you where I want. Let me show you what I want to do versus what I'm capable of doing right now. So what I want to do, I want to do stuff like this. I want to do stuff
Nice.
like this. I want to do stuff like, oh, let's see here. Okay, Google, stop. Let's see here. So if we can find that art. Oh, I mean, I'm gonna brain fart for this guy's name, but oh, here it is. Ki-Hoon Ryu. I want to do. This is a storyboard artist shitpost, but I want to do stuff about as well executed drawing wise as this. Look at that hand. That's such a nice hand. He did that in 2012 while Korra was still running. Also, a fun fact, we can legally watch Avatar: The Last Airbender because Amazon Prime has it currently. We watched it the other day, actually, after class. I think we might put on an episode or two after class now. In order to legally watch it, you have to have an Amazon Prime account, and then we can do a watch party. Like if you have an Amazon Prime on Twitch, then you can participate in the watch party, basically. So you gotta link your Twitch account for that. Oops. Let's take a look at what people are doing on before we go back to our class stream. Let's take a look at what people are doing in Drawland. Just stop. I'm going to see if I can put on some more inspirational material. Well, this is fun. Let's leave it on here. But yeah, let's see. I see Sketchy Faces trying to play with the method a little bit. There we go. Okay, there's my panel. All right, now I can jump through these. All right, I'm going to make panel number 9 real quick. Don't anyone draw on this panel, but I'm going to link this in chat. Special panel 9. I'll call it special panel 9. That's just for me to draw on, but I want people to jump into that panel, if you're able to watch me draw a little bit. So I'm going to do maybe a few invented figures. Suddenly I'm like, I don't know what it is about it. I got like this wave of a sudden bit of stage fright just now. Thinking about drawing in here. I don't know why. So silly. Maybe it's because I'm switching to a different material or something, or it's like Oh no, you're not drawing in your demo file anymore, Spacedad. The demo file that you have for like all the class demos you're going to do this evening. I can just copy paste these in here later. So I want people watching to see like how my strokes move and stuff. How I'm kind of like masking this thing in. This is kind of a shit post starter drawing right now for me to get kind of warmed up. But once I get a little bit more calibrated here, get that over here. All right. So for the newcomers here, just watch kind of how I'm drawing right now. Like these like even like these aren't really like sketchy lines and stuff. These are the lines that flow into each other and build. Like we don't want chicken scratch. We want confident flowy strokes. We want preferably fewer lines if possible. Like you should be able to describe these shapes with relatively few lines. The only thing that would happen is if like going over the line again is if you strengthen them up a little bit. Like sometimes like I like darken on an area here to like emphasize the underside or a certain side of something, or to give some more weight or variation. It's okay if it's a little sketchy. You just want to avoid chicken scratching, because chicken scratching is indecisive and lacking in confidence. So for this hand again, keep in mind like the rhythm of the hand, the way that those knuckles work. Is there's if you hold your hand up in front of you, you can see that your hand has like this is like how the knuckles line up right here. These little curves like that. Now just remember that, just keep that in mind when your knuckles are moving in 3D space. If you want more information on that, you can consult Vern Hogarth's Ghost or his books if you don't want to do necromancy. But Vern Hogarth's Dynamic Hands book is where I got this from, and it's kind of what I've adapted this method from for drawing the body a little bit. So a method for drawing hands wound up getting adapted into a ball and socket approach for handling the rest of the figure. Of course, this is also a mishmash of several other things too. Like there's a little bit of George Bridgman in there, and a few other things. And I bet that there's something that I'm subconsciously channeling here that I can't remember. That that is probably the main source of where I'm getting this from without realizing it. But Vern Hogarth is the main one. Yeah, struggling to draw hands is one of those things that artists have a big problem with. And look at this. This is basically a puppet that is made out of what you would draw simplified knuckles with, basically. Knuckleman. Or Knucklehead. Oh, I didn't start a timer, but feel free to draw the figures, or watch me draw a little bit more if you want. So I'm just trying to like show off the method a little bit. Again, this is a method that I've kind of developed for myself. What works for you might be very different, but you might be able to pick up on a few things from here. And again, I got this from reading reading and trying to practice Bern Hogarth's hands and also his figures, and it just was a method that sort of popped and clicked with me, and it felt right for me. Oh, and also to further prove just how powerful this method is, I'll leave this as is, right there. Let's put this in here. But to show how powerful this method is, look, you can do it with animals and creatures easily. Like here, I'll invent an animal or creature or something here. At some point in the future, I've been meaning for the longest time to like do some kind of a animal drawing session or series. Animal drawing is actually something that I have a lot of muscle memory at, even though I haven't practiced it in a while. And a weird dog mule looking weird thing there, but let's try a few more. Kind of looking like a person standing in an animal pose right now. I'm a little ashamed of that one. Let's try this. This might be a little bit more. I kind of need to warm up before I can do a horse. But I think you get the idea. Like, I mean, like it's still based on the same stuff. Like you just modify the modularity of it for animal limbs and stuff. Don't want to get too much more into that. Let's maybe try a creature or some. I'm gonna invent like some kind of monster of some kind. Let's try. I mean, like one of the easiest ways to start inventing a monster is to start distorting the limbs, maybe adding additional limbs and stuff. Like let's see here. Let's add this is a foreshortened limb here. Some extra limb down there. Look at that. Like normally, like, oh god, I gotta draw so many arms and limbs and stuff. But no, this method right here, like, it's a snap. So now we can kind of like, you can kind of like fill in the gaps a little bit about like how a creature like this might look with muscles and stuff on it later. And again, this thing is like a 3D model, 3D model rig. Boom. You can reposition it the way you would on like a model rig. So it's just a forearm dude here, but let's try maybe making him more creature-like. Or we can move on to another thing. Let's just start playing with it. Let's start playing with just like adding limbs and making weird, distorted things. Like you can really play with this torso shape thing that we started with to create some variation. Either exaggerated humans or creatures or monsters or something. Also, this is not the first time I've used this method, and I want to prove to you from years ago, like I think 2017 or something, I made this drawing. Let me find it real quick. But before I was really fully conscious of using this method, there's some sketchbook stuff I did a long while ago. It's been hard for me to kind of get back into the frame of mind of how to draw like this, but this way of drawing is rooted in this method. Look at that. You can see me doing a little bit of... This is kind of like the rudimentary beginnings of that method right there. So is this. And let's see here. Oh yeah, here we go. This drawing in particular. That's a really fuzzy version of it. Oh, here's a better scan. There we go. Yeah, this guy right here. This is just an improvised sketch, but you can see like it's based in the same kind of it's based on the same kind of thing I'm talking about, but then I just played with it randomly and stuff. Oh yeah. I would advise people doing stuff like this for sure. Like modular limbs and just like playing with different things. This is like a bunch of random heads. I think this is all like 2017 stuff. Yeah, I want to go back to this kind of sketching a lot more in the future. And evolve it more. So it feels good. It's very satisfying for me to do. Anyway, yeah. Now that we have a modular way to approach the figure with this thing here. Like you don't have to you don't have to like remember every little piece of anatomy at any given time. You just remember shape, play with shape, play with the weight, play with the pose, play with the attitude. Oh, now the shape is like easier to figure. Oh, because the shape kind of implies this a little bit. I have enough to work with to add in like the bicep or muscle groups or something. Break out the anatomy book. And then start inserting pieces of anatomy into the figure. Yeah, using a method like this, your sketchbooks will start looking a lot more fun. There'll be like varied figures and things like this in them. And because of how modular these things are, you could come back to stuff like this and you could start making them into a much more elaborate sketches, kind of like what I showed off in that pencil sketchbook. Like these things are made to be worked up into something. So we're kind of doing free sketching right now. I haven't really set a timer. So people should be either freely sketching on their own or doing the time poses that are on screen right now. What time is it? It is 7:30. So we got another hour of this. I think we're on pretty good footing this evening, I would say. Does anyone have any questions? I am all ears.
You mean specifically regarding this technique?
Well, yeah, well, anything really, honestly. If you had any generic questions.
Well, I'm a bit insecure using this still. I don't know if I'm really using it right. But I don't know if I can phrase my question in a coherent manner yet. Maybe I should keep playing with it and see if I can come up with a question, like a more organized question.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the key to this, by the way, is starting to like understand understand how to use those pliable shapes. If you if you have a hard time getting those pliable shapes out, you don't have the initial building block that you can use to make this. So I would really want people to make kind of like maybe like a page full of shapes like this, or several pages, as many as they need to kind of start wrapping their heads around it. But you want to think of these as being kind of like dynamic, stretched out 3D wads of stuff.
There is an exercise from Drawbox that maybe can help people uh, understand that. It's one of the cross-counter exercises from Lesson
Possibly,
2.
yeah.
It in the chat. Now, let me find it real quick. I know because I used to do it as a warm-up, and I still do it sometimes because it helped me grasp seeing organic shapes as 3D forms.
Yeah. So, folks, you see what I'm doing here? I want you, if you are struggling, if you are not able to do the the kind of waddy clay bone method and stuff, I want you to do what I'm doing here with these shapes. Just like make a page full of these kind of modular shapes like this. And then like maybe leave a little space on them so you can, like, for example, I put a sphere there. Now I've made a joint. Then I add another shape to it. Becomes like kind of like a knee or an elbow joint now. But the important thing is, first off, you guys need to get used to thinking of these kind of stretchy, pliable shapes that become kind of a little bit more kind of like bone-like shapes. Like when you're drawing them, it should almost, like, you should try to get your, like, a motion with your arm that kind of almost feels like you're sculpting it. That's why you want to also draw with your shoulder and your arm. It needs to feel like you're like working a putty knife to sculpt this out, sculpt this smooth thing out. Like you're not merely just drawing a line or a thing. You're massing in a wad of like 3D volume here. You want to think in those terms when you're doing it. And these things are modular too, so you can decide after the fact what direction it's going in. Like, this one's heading in that direction, so I'm doing it like that, like it's turned towards us like that. Or you could decide that it's going the other way, like this. Oh, it's going that way now. Yeah, the main thing is people need to play with these shapes and start wrapping their head around thinking in 3D with them. Like we're not doing this. We're not doing this tonight. We are doing this. Yeah, these pliable 3D shapes. Draw lots of them. Get used to drawing lots of them. And again, if you want some help with thinking in this direction, Mike Matisse, right here. This guy, Mike Matisse, with his Force book series. And he's also got a YouTube channel. And there's some Proco videos he also did. So the stuff he talks about and the stuff he does is kind of how you want to think when you're using these little simple shapes. course, we're going way simpler than what he's doing, because this is a simple, super duper modular pliable method. Copyright me, Spacedad. It's a method that works for me. It might not work for you. You might get more out of checking out Mike Matisse instead of me. Another source is Vern Hogarth. Vern Hogarth's Dynamic Anatomy books. Ah, that's the man. But you can see, like, let me see if I can find some examples of his hands. Hands. See if we can find the ball socket thing that I was talking about that shows up in his Dynamic Hands book. It's got to be somewhere in here. A lot of good hand images. But yeah, his ball socket thing that shows up on one of the pages in this book. And honestly, his hands in general and stuff is another thing. And his figures in general is another thing that I'm pulling from for this. And the other one is George Bridgman. Yeah, George Bridgman's anatomy book. He's a little bit harder to get into, but you can see like this kind of way that he thinks of the figures, these kind of like chunks of fried chicken, basically, like these masses in 3D space. This kind of stuff, like these 3D masses and stuff. I'm thinking in those terms with these very, very simple shapes that we're using. Yeah, Bridgman's pretty intense, and got quite a bit of a learning curve to get into. But he's in the back of my head. But that's the thing, like, you have this stuff in the back of your head, and we're doing something really simple and modular and expressive that can be adapted. Oh, and the other one is Glenville Pooh. See if we can find the page. There's a page in his book that shows like something kind of similar to the pliable masses of the bones that we're using. There we go. I think some of it's here. Yeah, there's a section in the Glenville Pooh drawing manual where he does like some stretchy forms that are very similar to the bones that we're using. Oh, here's some of it here. Oh, there's some of it there, right here. But yeah, and then somebody mentioned Drawbox. One of the Drawbox exercises is something like this with organic forms or something.
Yeah, I linked it in the drawing corner chat.
Yeah, I'll check it out in a little bit. I want to get some more drawing under my belt. So yeah, I mean, like, this is like, for me, like, this is keying into the confidence that I need to like plot stuff out, you know? Like, look at that. No question. I can just like handle that leg right there, you know? This is a method that's working for me. Some of you guys are going to be missing some stairs doing this, but like, I would hope that for some people here, as you start to adapt to something like this, you'll be able to get something out of something out of using a few bits and pieces of this. It's a very fun way to draw too, like it's very mass oriented. So much of the drawing is like thought out in terms of like the space that it occupies, just by banging out these shapes. And even if you don't get it quite right, like you have something workable that's down on the page that you can modify and fix and stuff. And you don't have to worry about getting something off a bit because it's easy to fix. And you don't have to get self-conscious about it. And also, even if it's off, sometimes it looks pretty good, even if it's off a bit. Anyway, again, we're looking for these kinds of shapes here. Maybe go over them a few times without lifting up your pencil. It's okay if there's like spillover and stuff on them. I want you to kind of like feel your way around them and stuff. You'll eventually kind of get a better sense of like how to kind of like, for example, like I'm adding a little bit more dark right there because that makes this pop a little more or something. Eventually I'll start getting a little bit more of a sense of how to utilize them and stuff. Like, I'm using a ball and socket joint. You can see like the top of like a kind of a ball socket cylinder right there. Sometimes I'll like carve into the shapes and add additional shapes. Yeah, it's like sculpting on the page. It's really fun. So I want people to take this home and play with this method some more. Start maybe do some drills in this a bit, and maybe like, and it's not too hard to like, once you get this down, to add like another one of these here. And look, oh, like you got a limb right there. You can start playing with inserting stuff and like adding what you know about, like, for example, let's say I'm going to add in some anatomy here. Do like a pit of the neck there. Trapezius there. And so on and so on. So you can keep breaking it down and stuff. Yeah, as animators, you're looking for a method that works for you for how to approach the figure, because everyone has a different makeup stuff. But it should be a method that's open-ended enough that it can be adapted to a pretty wide range of character designs. Well, what the hell happened to the pencil here? There we go. Back to normal again. Oh, ran out of time there. Oh, we've done this guy before. Oh, fine, do him again. Maybe I'll try exaggerating him or something. Let's try that. An exaggeration is also a snap with this method too. That's another thing I like about it. Magma, are you drawing in Chrome? The person who's in Twitch chat that says they can't draw. It only works in Chrome. That, by the way, that also includes the Chrome browser, the Chrome mobile browser on like iOS or Android, by the way. Magma Studio actually works really well on iPad and Chrome. I may actually, I actually may try using that in the future here. Let's uh I'll have like my iPad here and like I can grab it and like jump over and draw in Magma Studio and it'll still show up in real time because like what I'm drawing will be on screen on my computer through the Magma Studio browser. Oh, good, you got it working. Like it was literally that. It was like torso is actually. I wanted to exaggerate this, but then I like lost track of what I was doing. So now the torso is a lot larger than it should be. But I could fix that. See, it's modular. Maybe make the torso a little bit too small there. That feels a little better to me. Another thing I would like about this method is it's easy to put feeling into it. Like, look at this dude. I'm sure someone here can identify who this guy is. Like in UFC or something. I'm curious if anyone has found that they're getting something good out of this method, or is they're having a little bit of it. A lot of people are, I presume, are having trouble adjusting to first being exposed to this method. I'm curious if anyone has been able to feel anything click for them so far using this or trying this out.
I think even drawings that are not necessarily working out for me still look kind of cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I like techniques like these where it allows you to think more like an editor than necessarily an artist who needs to
Mm-hmm.
uh, draw the idea like ready.
Yeah.
You can put something out real quick and then go back and edit
Mm-hmm.
it and mess with it until it's what you need.
Yep.
So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. That's why I developed it like this. It's an animator's approach to drawing the figure, which means it needs to be simple and modular so we can modify it and play with it and push it and change it and fix it. We need something. We need a wad. We're working with a wad of clay here. Like the wad of clay needs to be modular. It needs to be flexible so we can change it on the fly, like reposition limbs, and we're not totally committing to anything with it. Like that doesn't mean we're not non-committal. That means that if we make a mistake or if we're not seeing something in our first pass, like we have the leeway to push or exaggerate it and stuff, or to fix it or adjust it or whatever we want. And because it's so modular, you can use it for anything. And yeah, if you that at higher levels for animators, they really do like think way more like editors than artists. Because they no longer really think about anatomy, figure drawing, correct proportions, blah blah blah. They're thinking the high level animators tend to be thinking more in terms of acting. And so that kind of plays into what you talked about with like editing. Like they're thinking like they're thinking like an actor um, to create the poses and the performance that they need. So they're not wrestling with how to properly position stuff and so on. They're thinking about the emotion that's driving the scene, and because like the way that they're approaching it is so second nature at that high level. Like they're so used to drawing figures intuitively that they let the acting choices drive things.
I hope I can get to that level someday.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. That's why I'm doing this. Glenn Keane is probably one of the best examples of that for sure. A lot of the really experienced Disney animators for sure, definitely. And quite a few Sakuga animators that are excellent also are kind of in that vein, I would say. But you can even see it in like really well done illustrations and stuff. Like the same mindset that goes into, oh, they're not really thinking about figure drawing because it's so intuitive at this point. They're thinking about acting and attitude and posing and stuff, and like overall kind of design sense of the figure. And there's some really good artists that are very kind of animation oriented, even though they're illustrators that I've seen their work of that are good examples of that. Let me see if I can find. There's this one guy in ArtStation in particular that I'm thinking of that really kind of strikes that for me. Let's see my connections. Oh no, my collections. Let's go back here. A good ways back into my likes. I wasn't kidding when I said a good ways back into my likes, because I liked him a long time ago. God. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that kind of thing here, but this guy in particular, I'm trying to find. Nope. Wait, is this him? No, this is someone else. Still really cool, though. Yeah, there's this one guy in particular who does like these really amazing kind of exaggerated illustrations that are kind of a bordering the line between fashion photography and figure drawing, exaggerated figure drawing that are in here somewhere that have a little bit of a hint of what I'm talking about regarding that, where it's really about like the attitude and the posing more than anything else. This is him? This is not him. Here he is. Found him. Yeah, these are him. These are him. Man, I glossed right by this guy. Daniel Clark. Got new stuff that he's posted more recently. Yeah, look at this. This is really fucking rad. Oh, he's got a demo of it. Check out how he starts a sketch. Let's see if we can slow this down. Look at how he roughs that in. Then he does another pass on it to kind of true it up, and then he does this line pass here, or this kind of a pseudo silhouette pass because he's painting this. Yeah, there you go, silhouette pass there. Getting the block in. Then he starts breaking down the values and the shapes and stuff. Working it out further. It's really fun. Maybe I really think I should get more into painting in the future for sure. So there's a lot of thought going into here on like the reflective light and stuff, and how the light interacts with like the jeans and stuff and fabric, and so on. Like detail in the fabric, it's really interesting.
This is very interesting. I want to get more into painting in the future too, but I feel there's a lot more of structure that I need to study before.
Yeah, as far as by the way, as far as animators go, painting in value is like it's not necessarily something you need to really concentrate on, but painting in value is really good for animators in terms of understanding 3D form. So a lot of animators would get good cross training by getting more into value painting and value drawing. And also it's cross-pollinating skills. Not only that, but I mean like there's tools these days that can let you paint in full color when you're animating by hand. Like I've seen some really insane shit by like people who can paint kind of like this, who have animated stuff. Maybe not quite as detailed as this, but kind of with the same sort of knowledge that goes into this, but for like animation, which is
Yeah,
wild.
I know a few artists who can pull that off as well. It's insane, really.
Yeah. Oh, on that note, let's say Puparia. There we go. Hope I don't get boinked for this thing here. Let's see if I can. So this is mostly hand animated. But this is like animated illustrations from like the cover of a manga, basically, in how it comes across. I might have to trim out this segment if I get boinked for it. Actually, no, I can contest it as educational. I've been doing that successfully lately when I upload these to YouTube. And then yeah, in the context that I'm playing this here, this is educational. I want to see way, way more anime in this vein these days. I mean, not necessarily drawn like this with this level of detail, but I mean like this kind of eerie surrealist mood. Like this kind of stuff is like my personal favorite anime. Stuff like Witch's Egg.
Maybe we would get more stuff like this in the future if Japanese animators were better paid.
Oh yeah. Yeah, more freedom. They'd have more freedom to experiment on their own time because they wouldn't be like slaves to the drawing table so much.
Yeah, exactly.
It is 8:10 right now. Let's keep it up. Let's keep doodling and drawing and messing with this. We'll be trying this method out and some other things next Friday. I want to do some homework review with the people who've kept up diligently with the 100-figure homework assignment I gave. The critique has been kind of delayed because this week because, well, because of the COVID vaccine recovery time I needed.
Speaking of homework, I posted a work in progress of the animated turnaround
Hmm.
that you
Yeah,
suggested
yeah,
we
we're gonna be
make.
looking at those on Saturday.
Oh, okay, on Saturday. Got
Hmm.
it.
But yeah, no, I'll be happy to take a peep. Yeah, I assigned people to do some animated turnarounds last Saturday. And if you guys want to try using like this in animation, I'm gonna be trying some experiments using this approach to drawing in animation, trying to adapt it. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard to like kind of think about how you could animate this. I mean, look at the since it's so modular. I mean, geez, it isn't that hard for me to picture like this thing that I'm drawing here, like standing up. It's big long legs, big long thighs here. And then I could like do this, kind of get torso in shape here.
Hey, Spacedad, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say the stuff you're teaching would also apply to people like wanting to make like comics or something in the vein
Yes,
of comics?
definitely.
Okay.
So the difference between comics and animation is, with comics, it's a little bit more about the individual drawing conveying often a sense of motion and action in it. Um, Animation is less about the individual drawings and more about like how they all come together as a whole. But comics are a form of sequential art, and an animated film is basically just a really really slow comic sped up really fast, using your persistence of vision to create an illusion of motion. And also there's crossover with like limited animation, or what they call limited full animation in anime especially, where there are fewer drawings used, but the drawings that are used are made to be more contrasting and dynamic, so that there's more. It feels like there's more motion going on there than what was actually drawn. And that is very heavily rooted in comics, especially manga, because a lot of the tricks of limited full animation posing come from manga or mangaka and stuff. Being able to convey movement through a body figure. I mean, like look at, like, let's see here. My Hero Academia. Manga action. I mean, look at this page, for example, right here. Like the amount of motion that the artist is trying to convey with when there's like nothing moving. A lot of anime, you'll see like stuff where there's very little movement happening sometimes. Like there could be a scene like this, for example, where you just see that pose for the character, and maybe like this right here is like animated on like a 2 or 3 frame cycle to kind of stagger a bit or something. And just for that moment, you get like a strong sense of movement of power there, even though it's a frozen moment. Or you'll see stuff like see a really strong pose here, but then the only other pose you'll see like 1 or 2 poses like of him like back there reaching before he's going to swing. Just 1 or 2 poses before that just jumps into this. Because the individual poses have a lot more of a sense of movement built into them individually, so they stand up on their own a little bit more. And the cool thing is about limited full animation is it is also a keyword of the day, modular. Limited full animation is a modular process, so that like if you wanted to add more in betweens, if you like made really contrasting poses, you can add more in betweens. Like the principle of contrasting poses in limited full animation is the main driving driving thing that helps it create a sense of less is more. Whereas like Disney animation would be like very full and elaborate and like smooth and stuff, and like everything would be like on 2s and 1s and stuff. Like something like this might be like on a 7 or something, like 1, 2, or on a 3. But then you can add more in betweens to it too, to like so like it, no matter how few or many frames it has, it always looks good. But that's just like that's a particular way to approach animation. Like there is of course the traditional Disney style, which relies a little bit less on strong individual posing, not always, but a little bit more on just like overall kind of fluid, very lifelike acting and staging. But I will give Disney, well, Disney is also known to use strong posing too, and held poses and stuff, and examples of things that are not necessarily consciously limited full animation, but are basically kind of the same idea. Even classic Disney has been doing that, was doing that stuff even without specifically identifying it. But yeah, limited full came out of a intersection between manga developments and manga, really trying to push the boundaries of conveying motion on the page. And it came out of production limitations, where they only had so much of a budget for how many frames of celluloid that they could ink and paint, and only so much time and money that they had to like meet the deadline for the animation that they needed to draw by hand. So limited full animation is like a it's something that was born of necessity but transformed into its own thing in clever hands. But yeah, I mean, like the way I'm drawing right now, like the way this modular method stuff, this method that I'm showing you, it's not like a set in stone method. This is something that I've adapted that works for me. Something kind of in this vein would be maybe something that you need to tap into for your own work. At the end of the day, you're going to need something that works for you for being able to mass in figures and get them where you need them to be, without really like getting too caught up in too much. And they need to be modular enough so that you can confidently build on them, and that you can also again treat them like as if you're like an editor. Is it a trick of the light, or does that man have a long torso? You mean the running guy on screen right now? The one before? Let me take a look. That guy? No, he has a normal sized torso. It's probably might be a trick of the light. It's probably because of his pants. His pants down low. Also, his like side of his body's in shadow, so it's making his torso look thinner. He's just a really, really well built dude. Like, there's more of his trapezius going up over here. You're not seeing, kind of in the shadow there. I think it's more of his. I think some of this might be blocked by fabric too. Of his like his jacket or whatever. Pit of his crotch is somewhere around there. He's wearing his pants pretty low too, so it's kind of making his torso look longer than it is. He's hot though. So, question for tonight: should we raid or should we watch some Avatar: The Last Airbender? I'm leaning towards maybe raiding tonight and like saving Avatar for maybe a watch party tomorrow or something. I don't know. Maybe save that for Friday. I'm a little exhausted myself. I think I'm going to call it quits for my drawing pencil today. But let's take a look at what people are doing. I'm leaning towards raiding someone. We've got about 35 people left here. That's enough for a good sized raid. So let's take a look at see what people are up to. First, I'm going to take a peek. Let's check out what people are up to in my magma. A little bit there. Playing with the method a little bit, I see. Sketchy face is giving it a go. Wow, this page got big. Yeah, see both the people on this page are giving it a good shot, especially the one whoever's drawing in purple is really, really trying hard with this method, which is good. It's good to see for sure. Play with it more and start think about stuff in perspective and three-dimensionality and stuff. Like if you combine this with a little bit of knowledge of perspective and stuff, like figures in 3D space, that'd be really handy. We've actually covered like perspective tricks on figures before. Maybe I can touch a little bit more into that on Friday. But yeah. Let's see. This one's really sketchy, but I see that they're making an effort to try to mass in those shapes. This person's definitely playing with it. I feel like it's actually surprisingly good sense of weight for this one, even though I think like both of the people who are drawing here, I think the materials are kind of fighting them a little bit. Like I think they've not quite settled in completely with the dexterity that they need for the digital drawing, whatever that they're using to draw on right now. I would say that Train needs to be bolder. This person right here is really, really fighting, and I can see them really making an effort to kind of push and stuff and feel out the shapes and stuff, and that's good. Keep doing that, and try to find a way to build up your confidence in it. Like maybe do some drills with like the simple shapes and stuff. But I see you starting to put it together a little bit, which is good. For Train here, I would say be way more bold with it. Like even bolder than you are. Like this is actually pretty. Like this is a really simple sketch, but I could see this one being pushed into like this would be like a good as a thumbnail for a really cool illustration right here. Kind of exaggerated size of the feet there. It's kind of like a bell bottom effect and stuff. So there I see bits and pieces of good stuff there, but I do feel like that you're kind of fighting the material. You're fighting the materials a bit, or fighting the digital drawing pencil a little bit, and that's going to take practice and fluency, I think. I don't know. It's a big old page. They weren't quite doing what we were doing tonight, but I think they were trying more of the Ethan's thing. There is a lot of stuff where I see it kind of like loses its dimensionality and stuff. So I actually, hopefully, I actually do want to see whoever did this. Maybe give this method a go because it might help them wrap their head around not making the figures look so flat. That's one of the reasons why I'm using this method, because these figures shouldn't be flat 2D shapes. These things are 3D masses. And the method like this is a way to kind of like very, very boldly make a 3D statement in 3D space, basically. Or imply that it's in 3D space. So like this, for example, right here. Or any of these. So it doesn't flatten out like that, you see. Like it has like a Like it has a sense of volume and space that it occupies and stuff. And you can wrap your head around that by using a method kind of in this vein. So let's see here. Not sure we have anyone else to look at. But that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. So let's get ready to raid. It's amazing. We went through a whole session this evening without playing any music in the background. Moist Critical's doing YouTube night. Oh god. Yeah, maybe we should do a YouTube night sometime in the future to watch cool videos and stuff. There's lots of good stuff on YouTube to check out. But anyway, let's see here. Let's look for an active artist, preferably someone that I know. That maybe someone we've rated before or whoever else is on. Let's see who's going right now. Rika Draws, I've rated them before. They're pretty good. Gravity Dusty. Michael Denoka. Tea Time Jess? Who's this? We'll find out after the ads. But they've only got 9 viewers right now. Maybe we should raid them. Gravity Dusty, and they might be neat. Oh. Tea Time Jess. Let's take a look here. They got an art station. That's neat. 2D generalist. They got some neat stuff. Maybe we give them a raid. Let's take a look and see what's. Oh, that's nice. I'm inclined to raid this fella. Or we could raid Rika Draws again. See what they're up to. You know, Rika's a known entity, and they're working on something
Apparently
that's really
Josh
fun. And
cut-
this is built.
Apparently
This
Josh
is
has some racial
they're drawing
controversy.
something right now in rough form that is kind of built off the same idea of what we were messing with tonight. That they're just using more anatomical shapes with it. So maybe we'll raid them. I think we should do. We'll raid Rika Draws. There we go. Everyone get ready. We got 33 people viewing right now. Let's get everyone in the raid as everyone can. We got 33 viewers, but 23 people are ready to raid.
See, are you posting a link?
For Rika Draws?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, you guys, some of you guys aren't in Twitch.
Oh, I see.
Oops. Yeah, give me a sec. Okay, it's in drawing corner. Oh, yeah. Did I put? Yeah. Also, I want to remind people. Earlier tonight, I posted a link to a Pinterest board with character design references. You can scroll up in the drawing corner chat and check that out. That one has like tons and tons of content. Oh, looks like we only have 22 viewers right now anyway, and 24 ready to raid. So we'll raid right now. I'll see you guys over there. Hi.